What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. Chance and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and here tonight we are gathered here today to talk about the injury to Justice Hill. If you haven't heard, Justice Hill tore his Achilles today. And really,
it was announced today. I think
it was announced today. That's true.
A few days ago. Yeah.
Right. Because so I did notice that Jeff was confused. I noticed that Jeff Zrebeck sent a tweet saying he was a little confused because there was no news on Justice Hill being injured. He was confused as to why he wasn't in practice. And then you're right. It was announced today that he had tore his Achilles. So we're here to talk about it. First of all, we hope for a speedy recovery to Justice Hill, and he will hurt from a special team standpoint. What were your initial thoughts, Glenn?
Well, I mean, obviously you feel bad for Justice Hill. Look, there's no secret that we haven't been necessarily the biggest Justice Hill fans, in the sense that we don't have a ton of confidence when he's on the field offensively. We know what he brings to special teams, but we've never been the biggest Justice Hill guys as far as being in the backfield in a meaningful way, in a big time situation, taking big time snaps. But feel bad for him. I mean, he's a nice guy, a smart kid, and obviously this was a big year for him, a year in which he wanted to prove that he was more than just a special teams contributor. Wanted to, and especially after the injury to JK, it certainly opened up an avenue where he'd likely be more involved in the offense. So you feel bad for him there. Then I started immediately thinking, man, it would have been nice to keep McCrary around. I mean, it's unfortunate because I thought he ran so well in the preseason, and then he obviously gets cut and claimed on waivers by Denver. But obviously hindsight's 20/20. But it would have been sure nice to have him around, during this situation. But the next question is who they're going to replace him with, because you can't go into the season with just two running backs if you're the Baltimore Ravens.
John said it himself, right?
Yeah, this is a 3 running back team, and he says all 3 have to be active on game day. So this isn't a situation where, sometimes you have 3 quarterbacks, but only 2 are active. No, not the case here. He wants all 3 to be active, which means they got to go find someone, Jimbo, because right now there's only 2 currently on this team.
That's right, and that's what we're here to talk about. Aside from the injury, Eric DeCosta is going to waste no time going out there and finding a guy that's gonna be able to contribute to the team. And immediately we heard some names that are coming to work out for the Baltimore Ravens. And one of them is Devante Freeman, a former Falcon, most famously known for his stint with his tenure with the Falcons. I think he spent some time with the Giants as well. And of course, the one, the only, Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Glenn, I think it was last week that you were talking about the fact that there's very little chance that Le'Veon Bell becomes a Baltimore Raven because of who he has displayed himself as, as a person. It's really the antithesis of a lot of what the Ravens players stand for, and the Ravens kind of go after. I'm not talking about like off-field trouble or anything like that, because but I'm talking about in the locker room. He's kind of a me guy and things like that. I don't the off-field stuff. I don't think Le'Veon's really had any issues. I'm not saying he's getting in trouble off the field or anything of that nature. But as far as being a me guy and things like that, certainly that's been well documented. So, Glenn, I will let you give your thoughts first before I do.
Okay.
Do you have a preference between the two? So let me ask you this obvious. Then. What's your preference? And then who do you see as the more likely candidate? That's how I'll frame the question to you.
Well, there's no doubt I'm shocked by the fact that he's even being brought in for a workout. I mean, I get that there's a bit of desperation here when you lose Justice Hill a week before the season's supposed to open, and J.K. Dobbins not too long before that. So, I mean, there's no doubt that there's some desperation here, but still surprised nonetheless that they even brought Le'Veon Bell in to work out. Now, I get that he's still only, I think, 28 or at the oldest 29 years old. Let's see. Yeah, he's 29. He'll be 20. He's 29. He'll be 30 during the season. So, I mean, it's not like he's completely over the hill and done and washed. But if you look what he's done over the last couple seasons, I mean, it's not been very impressive. And I get that, some of those years were with the New York Jets, who didn't have a great surrounding cast around him. But, his last full season with the Jets, it was in 2019 where he started and played in 15 of the 16 games. Jimmy averaged 3.2 yards a carry. And again, I get it. It's a terrible Jets team. But he averaged 3.2 yards a carry. He did catch 66 passes out of the backfield, which is, a lot of catches, especially for a running back, which is something he's been doing his whole career. But, I mean, he had one receiving touchdown. He turned those 66 catches into 460 yards. So it's not like, I'm just not blown away by those numbers. Then he goes and bounces around to a couple teams. He's with the Jets for a little bit in Kansas City, where he stuck around for, I think, 9 games he played in Kansas City. And again, in Kansas City, he averaged 4 yards a carry, which is like the bare minimum of what you should do if you're a running back in the league. So it hasn't been incredibly impressive, but more so than that, it's just, I just don't see how he fits unless he's had some sort of a change of heart or I just don't see how he fits it. Yeah, in the locker room. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, I think one texter or one commenter said a couple shows ago that at this point he might be a better rapper than he is a running back. I mean, I've never heard his music, but who knows? I mean, he might be there, but I'm just confused as to why they're not immediately calling Todd Gurley. And all reports were that it went well when he came in. Wasn't really a need for him at the time, but they wanted to keep. Apparently they always kept the channels of communication open. I'm just curious why they don't bring a 27-year-old Todd Gurley in, but yet they bring in a 29-year-old Lev Bell and I'm not sure how old Devante Freeman is, but I know he's got quite a few carries under his belt. But are you at all wondering why not Todd Gurley?
Yeah, that one for me is actually pretty easy. This is the way I see it. The Ravens know what they have if they were to bring in Todd Gurley. They've already seen him. So I don't think it's a knock on Todd, or it decreases the likelihood of him actually coming to the team. Just because Le'Veon and Devante are in the news right now doesn't decrease Todd Gurley's chances of being a Raven. I think what it comes down to is Eric DeCosta wanting to test the waters and turn over every leaf. Mm-hmm. Right? I think he wants to turn over every leaf, do his homework, and then make a decision.
Okay.
And so you're right. Devante Freeman is 29 years old. It's crazy because a lot of these guys you'd think be over 30 based on, you think their career has been longer than that, but the three names that we're talking about, but just a lot of action, a lot of wear on the tires for all those guys. But so what I would say to you in response to your question is just these guys are the flavor of the day because they're coming for a workout. I think that, like I said, it's just Eric doing his due diligence. I don't think it will make his decision any different. The only thing that could be happening, look, if one of these guys are ready to take a league minimum or like some sort of minimum based on their tenure and things like that, and Todd's not, okay, like I respect that. That's fine. You can gamble and see what else you can get for a few $100,000 or $1.5 million. I don't know. I mean, it can't be $5-10 million swing because he's not getting that. Right? He doesn't have that market value right now. But Glenn, look, I got a question for you. All right.
Okay.
Got a question. And I'm gonna need DK to put up on the screen here. This is my question to you. What do Le'Veon Bell and Santa Claus have in common, my man?
What do I don't even know how to answer this. What do Le'Veon Bell and Santa Claus have in common? You got me stumped, Jimbo. What do they have in common?
They're both coming to town, baby. Le'Veon Bell is going to be a Baltimore Raven. You mark my words now on the show. You heard it here first. I have a gut feeling about this, Glenn. Santa's coming to town in December. Le'Veon Bell's coming to town in September. And I feel like if there's one team and one thing that can get Le'Veon back to any semblance of what we saw in the past, it would be the chance to play villain to the Steelers. Like that to me, I think would do something for him, and to be on a competitor again, and then to be in a run heavy offense. So I totally get about the Ravens not necessarily bringing in guys like this, but I also think of guys that had issues, right, in the past on and off field that the Ravens have brought into their fold, right? Like guys that we've resurrected, like we resurrected Ricky Williams. I mean,
okay.
You know what I mean? That was the guy that we resurrect. Totally different scenario, but, you know, I even think of Marcus Peters, right? This is what, his third team?
Yeah, third
Chiefs,
team.
Rams, Ravens. And I mean, he's obviously an incredible football player. I think of a guy way back in the day, a Bernard Pollard, right? Who was a hot and cold guy is the way I would describe him. Some people loved him. Some people hated him. And there's other names, right? But what I would say about Le'Veon Bell is that the only way the Ravens he is not the candidate that they select is if he's out of shape, because he is the best, in my opinion. I don't count anything from the Jets. I know the stats are terrible, but they were an absolute dumpster fire. Terrible. I mean, look, I'm pretty sure that the local high school could have come out here and beat the Jets when they came at M&T Bank Stadium, the game that we went to. It was just an embarrassment. All right, so I don't put very much stock into his time with the Jets. I think if he's in shape, if he's ready to play football, Le'Veon Bell will be the guy because he's just better. Now, I don't know if he's outright better than Todd Gurley, but from an injury standpoint, he might be a little less beat up. Now, I know he's got his own injuries in the past as well. I think he tore ACL on both his knees as well, but Todd seems to have this chronic issue that has teams a little scared. So if Le'Veon is in shape, he's the guy. I don't think there's any way around it because talent trumps all.
It. I mean, look, there's a reason they brought him in, so obviously, you know, there's a chance that you're certainly going to be right here. But I mean, I get that that Todd Gurley's had, you know, there's certainly been a lot of coverage about his knees and issues. But let me just remind everyone: last year he played in 15 of 16 games. The year before that,
Todd.
He played in 15 of 16 last year, 15 of 16 in 2019. He played in 14 and 18. He played in 15 and 17, 16 and 16. So you're talking about over the last 5 years, he's missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. In the last 5 years, he's missed 5 games, Jimmy. And by the way, in one of those games was a rest day. So really, he's missed 4 games in the last 5 years, whereas Le'Veon Bell just last year played in 9 of 16. Right. So in just last year, he missed more games than Todd Gurley has in the previous 5 years combined. So I'm not really sure if injuries is really, and he's 2 years older. You know, I just don't know if that is really a good reason. And then you talk about motivation. I mean, yeah, Le'Veon Bell will be motivated, but is it really a Ravens versus Steelers division this year? Or is it more like Ravens versus Browns? I mean, in my opinion, I feel like a lot of people are picking the Steelers to finish behind the Bengals. Now, I'm not going to go that far, but I certainly think that the two leaders to, you know, have the highest chances to win the AFC North are the Browns and the Ravens. And so, I mean, I get that he had some motivation coming back, and but Todd Gurley's a Baltimore guy, Jimbo. So you know, I think that you have a lot of motivation,
is, don't you?
What do you mean, between the two?
No, sorry. I mean, I wonder what the dollar figure is that Todd's asking for. I wonder if it is, you know what I mean?
It's got to be similar. I mean, I get what you're saying, but who would you expect to ask for more? I would expect Le'Veon Bell
to ask for more.
You know, so I mean, I think I think Todd would be the cheaper, younger, and I'm not so sure if he's worse.
Like his career is at death's door. His career, right? Like, and anything that he can pick up at this point, he's not going to be choosy. Where I wonder if Todd has a little bit less of that feeling. I don't know. I'm not inside these guys' heads. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I totally get your point that I do think that Todd Gurley's still on the table. These guys are in the news, but I think Todd Gurley's still on the table. So that's a valid point. However, I do feel like Todd might be gambling a little bit, asking for a little too much. Might have a little bit of pride, which that's fine. I mean, but you're right. At the same time, customarily, that would be Le'Veon Bell. But this is what I can see happening. them getting in there, Le'Veon selling himself as well, and the Ravens saying, you know what, like let's just close the deal now. You know what I mean? One of those things where like we know what he is. He's checked off all the boxes. You know, he's in the right mindset. Let's just settle this thing, get him in, get him up to speed instead of trying to go back and forth with Todd, do this and that. Like every day counts.
Yeah.
And then also,
no.
coaches will not admit this, but this is something to consider. Not taking a stance here, guys. Don't get it twisted. But we have seen in the news that vaccination status does, while they say it doesn't, I guarantee you it does play a factor. While they say it doesn't. Because I don't think
we don't
legally
know the
they
difference
can
between the two. We don't know if one is and one isn't.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But like, I do think
might.
that's another factor that will be under consideration. Don't you think?
Well, here that could be, and they might know, which if one is and one isn't, that could play a role. But also, John Harbaugh said that the third running back, you have to play special teams, right? So does one seem more likely to accept that role, or do you think that Tyson Williams would go into that role?
Yeah, I think Tyson goes into right on.
Poor Tyson. I mean, this guy's licking his chops for this potential opportunity, and he gets to get demoted. Man, I mean, I don't know. It's the bottom line is they have to do something quickly because Monday night is coming. It's coming quick, and they don't want to go into that with just two running backs. So now, I don't know if DK could find this, but there wasn't a running back on the practice squad, correct? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know of any that got signed. I think we were talking about that when we went over it. And unless something's changed, there's still no running back on the practice squad. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess they might be forced to go into this game with just two because how quickly can you get a guy in the building? You got to go through the proper protocols. You got to do the physicals. You got to do obviously the sign of the contract.
Vaccination might be another consideration, right? Because you got to get through protocols in time.
And how quickly does one become eligible if they are and if they aren't, vaccinated? I don't know all those details, but yeah, I mean, they have to make a decision quick. Just some of the other names that are out there, Jimbo, that I think a lot of people are going to be pointing to. You got 27-year-old Duke Johnson, who we are familiar with from his time with the Browns, and then I think went to Houston and played with the Texans. He's out there. Kerryon Johnson is out there, just 24 years old, coming off his stint with the Lions, where he had some moments, and he was on the list that I looked at least of available free agents. And then Devante Freeman, as we mentioned earlier, that came in. If I had to put my bet on one guy right now, Jimbo, I'm still going to lean towards Todd Gurley, even though they did just bring in two guys. Now, I get that some of that's probably because I just don't have a lot of confidence in bringing in Le'Veon Bell and not disrupting. Like, I just don't want any disruption in the locker room.
Right.
I know that this is a strong locker room, but let's remember, Earl Thomas disrupted this team pretty strongly. And I think there's more that we don't know about still to this point that happened behind the scenes. It was a huge disruption. And that was a guy who had a huge role on the defense. I mean, he was a Pro Bowler. People, I know there's people who say that he was a disappointment and all. He was a Pro Bowler in his first year here. So we're not getting that with Le'Veon Bell. So if that guy can disrupt and ultimately get cut and go through this whole big thing, then maybe a distraction, from a Le'Veon Bell might not be something the team wants to go through. But I get that he was in here for a warm up, so it's definitely a possibility. But right now, I'm putting my odds and my money on Todd Gurley. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm based on the teams being scared off by his knee. And I mean, we're not medical professionals and we're not privy to that information, but I'm rolling with Le'Veon. He's Santa Claus. I'm rolling with Jolly Saint Nick, and he's going to roll into town bearing some gifts and do well for us. I think he'll not only play for the Ravens, I think he'll have a good season.
Wow.
And I'm excited, man. I just it's just a gut feeling. That's all.
And by good season, I mean, you're still riding with the Gus bus, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
what are you talking about here, Jimbo?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're still riding with Gus, but his yards per carry will be. Look, first of all, you'll have better season.
He's never even had 5 yards a carry, by the way.
No, sure, but it will definitely be above 4. He'll have a ton of touches on the football, and he'll make big plays for us. I believe it. I think he's going to be a contributor. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to. Also, be interesting to see what Alejandro Villanueva says about Le'Veon Bell, because I'm sure they will take that in consideration.
That's a good point. They gotta pull him aside, and yeah, this isn't something I want him asked on camera, because I'm sure if he's asked on camera, he'll say what is supposed to be said and not. But yeah,
well, Alejandro would be the type of guy to me that would just say the truth, and that's why I don't want it asked on camera.
I guess that's a good point. Yeah, but I do think that yeah, you got to pull him aside. Any former teammate of his, you got to pull aside and ask what they think. But yeah, but let us know what you guys think. I mean, were you bummed out to hear about Justice Hill? Are you starting to get worried? Now that's 2 injuries to the backfield. And if they do bring in a replacement, which they definitely have to, who are you hoping it will be? Who are you hoping it won't be? Let us know in the comments, and we'll talk soon.
Here comes Johnny.